Hey, this is JD,
And Eli,
introducing the GamePitch podcast.
a brand new podcast launching on the Project Nerd Network. JD, you want to tell everyone what we're all about?
Well, we're about games
Yeah,
and pitches
yeah.
and game pitches.
This all makes perfect sense.
Every Monday, we'll cover the week's biggest gaming news, hand out some industry red cards, and pitch a brand new game idea.
For our first few weeks, we're going to drop new episodes Monday and Thursdays to give you a larger sample of the series. I'm Eli.
And I'm JD.
Let's get to the show. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the GamePitch podcast. I am your host, JD, here with my co-host, Eli. Eli, you want to say hi?
Well, hello, listeners, and hello to you, J to the D. P.S. This is episode 5.
This is episode 5. We're 5 episodes in. I hope that you've all enjoyed listening. We have another packed episode this week. We're going to talk about the latest updates to what's going on with the coronavirus, including E3 2020 and some impacts to that. A whole bunch of rumors for games that we might see over this year and into next year. And we're going to talk a little bit about Stadia and their continuing woes. And just a reminder, we are still available for hire. Don't forget. Eli, what are you playing this week?
So I recently beat Hat in Time. Beat it. Actually,
awesome.
I just put in my review to Project Nerd, submitted it for review, so that'll probably come up in this next week here. But then I started playing Ori the day it came out.
Love it.
I don't.
You don't what?
I don't love Ori.
Oh, no. Wait, what? No, what's wrong?
A lot of things, JD, and I think I'm halfway through. We'll have to get to the end to see, but I need to get good at game, or I'm like, there are some things I just don't understand. The hitboxes, there's a guy who tells you your reports, and I'm terrified to death to go to him to see how many times I've died, because last time it was like 30 more times than I thought that I had died, so It's rough. Maybe I'm old and these old fingers just can't platform no more. But all the reviews were like, oh man, this game's easier than the first one. I was like, cool, because the first one was hard and this one's way harder.
So it is possible that you are declining in your skills as a platform gamer. Or did you download the day one patch? I heard that you have to get the day one patch downloaded, and that apparently helped solve some issues. Did you remember to get that?
I did download the patch. I gotta tell you, I'm still playing on a day one Xbox that I got at the Best Buy we used to work at together.
Oh, yeah.
It runs like a piece of crap. It chugs. Going to the menu sucks. When you die, it's like an extra level of punishment because it takes so long to reload and it chugs back in. And because you are loading in slower, the enemies are already moving towards you while you're still loading in. So you take hits before you're even allowed to move.
Yeah, that sounds like you're playing on hard mode plus, which
I put it on normal.
Ooh,
I've been streaming the whole thing. Everyone can see. It's just okay, that's what I'm playing.
Well, good. It sounds like you well, I wish I could say it sounds like you've been having a fun week, but it really does not. So
no, it's been so hard.
This week, what did I play? I played a little bit of Pokemon, just kind of I have a friend who's gotten really into the competitive scene, and he has just been hammering me with all sorts of crazy stats and move sets and breeding pools, and just like he has gone down the rabbit hole, which is cool because it's opening a whole new level of that game for me that I hadn't really explored. And so he's been like telling me what Pokemon I need to get and what to breed and like move sets that are good and like how I can be more competitive. And so that's been fun. And then a couple days ago, I finally downloaded Call of Duty Warzone, 90 gigabyte file.
Wow.
So it is massive. Took, I have pretty good internet, so it's not like it took forever, but still huge file. So I finally played my first match of that where I didn't have any friends on. So I just sort of loaded into a random squad and they didn't have any mics, or one of them had a mic, but it was just like someone screaming in Spanish in the background. And so
yeah, that was me, by the way. Sorry.
Which is, perfect. I thought so. I blocked you. I load in, we drop, first match. So I'm not really quite sure what the map is. I don't know where to go. So I see a place that's like military base, and I assume it's going to be overrun, right? Like my PUBG days are kind of flashbacking for me. And I'm like, all right, this is probably not safe, but let's go here. Land. I run up to a pistol, and moments before I'm able to grab it, I learned that I land with the pistol, which I didn't know. And then someone shoots me in the head and I die right away. Yeah, so really enjoying that game. Gonna uninstall it probably later today. And That's what I did this week.
So it sounds like we both caught some heavy, heavy L's this week, like in the gaming department.
Absolutely.
The one win that I did catch was that I dropped my control review on Project Nerd. I love that game. I think it's so good. It deserves every award, and I've said it on the pod here. But just please go read that control review. Did you write anything for Project Nerd this week, JD?
I did, and I had a pretty busy week at work, but I am putting together something that'll drop sometime next week. Just a little primer on some really like relaxing / comfort games for people to kind of lean into over the next week or two as we see all these like quarantines come down from coronavirus. Just trying to put together something that's, hey, these games aren't expensive necessarily. They're good, they're multi-platform, and they're just comforting. So I'm putting that together, and that'll drop sometime this next week. So
So maybe not Ori because it's so stressful.
it's number one on the list, actually, is Ori. It's good for everyone, especially small children who don't need a lot of hand-eye coordination. So uh
Oh, there was some heat on that one. I feel the burn all the way over here. But something else that has some heat on it is our fastballs. Let's get into the news, man. Let's talk about some quick news.
Yeah, so first things first, Microsoft is set to announce some new details around the Series X and Project X Cloud. They are doing that on the 17th and the 18th, so kind of slotting into what would have been their GDC talks since GDC was supposed to be next week. And so I think that'll be pretty cool to see what they bring for not only the new console, but they're obviously going to be talking quite a bit about the software too with Project X Cloud. So I'm stoked to see what they have to talk about.
So, do you think there's a chance that we get some sort of Halo reveal and some sort of price? Like, would you say Halo and price are the things that you need to have a successful Xbox like showcase?
No, I don't. I don't think price. I don't even think date. I think at this point, if you put it in the context of GDC was a very developer software heavy, right? I don't
Hmm.
know if devs in that audience necessarily care what that console is going to sell for straight up front. I think they more care about the software and the tools that are going to be open for people.
Okay.
And I get that this is going to be more public now than a GDC talk would have been. And so there has to be
Hmm.
a consumer slant to it. But I do think that it's in their best interest, they being Microsoft, to kind of make it about the games and the tech that are going to be there for developers, especially with Project X Cloud. I think we've seen the beta on Android for a while, and the iOS beta has been going for a couple months. And so I'd love it if they said, hey, in the iOS beta, we're going to open up some more games because it's still just Master Chief Collection right now.
Hmm.
And maybe announce like that is going to move out of beta simultaneously with the Series X launch. I think that would
Ooh,
be
okay.
huge, right? So I think there's a lot they can talk about, and we can see how they open that up to the developer audience more than anything.
Is there still a feature that they could show off, or maybe a studio acquisition that they could do that could make it poppy and exciting?
Oh man, studio acquisition. I mean, how many studios does Microsoft have now for like first party? It's got to be like 14 or 15, if not more, right? So like,
You could stack those up, man, and they don't even equal half a Naughty Dog, right? Like,
ah! I
ah,
mean,
right?
I think it depends where you're at. Like, I'd argue 343 is more than equal to a Naughty Dog, considering my love of Halo and that franchise. So I think it depends on the gamer, certainly.
Okay. Okay. Let's just move to the next story, my friend.
You throw Naughty Dog out, and it obviously harkens to Sony and their first party incredible exclusive games. And so not so much anymore. Horizon Zero Dawn, the complete edition, is coming to PC later this summer, which is amazing. And I'm always for games being on more platforms so more people can play them. But not everyone is. I think we've seen a lot of weird outcry from Sony fanboys who are not happy that this game is not going to be PS exclusive anymore. Like, it cheapens their experience somehow.
That's so dumb to me. Oh man, because it's so, well, that's it. I guess this is weird. Then how is this the equal and opposite response when they're just like, "Hey, we're gonna put Cuphead on Switch," and we're just like, "Yeah, please." That's exactly how people want to play Cuphead on the
Yeah.
Switch in their hands when like
Yeah.
Netflix is on. PCs have such greater potential for graphics capability or just for stability in a game, and Horizon Zero Dawn I think could only benefit from that. I don't get the outrage.
Not only that, right? But like, if you look at it from just a gaming point of view, from the player point of view, like, how is it bad for anyone to have better access to really, really, really great games? Like,
Yeah.
And what does it hurt for a PlayStation gamer for that game to now be on a different console? Like, you've played it. You've gotten to enjoy
Yeah.
this game now for over a year. Like, how is it suddenly so much worse now that I can play it on my PC?
I think it's funny that they're just like, I just don't understand that. I don't want more people to love the thing I love. That's, of course, I see the opposite side. Like, if we were gonna break this down from a financial standpoint, you bought a PlayStation or you invest in a PS Pro or spend all that money because Sony has these exclusives that you know that they can promise that you'll get. So I guess that's cheapening the experience in a sense that something that you thought was going to be exclusive and that's why you invested in the platform is now going other places. So I can see from a, I guess a financial not financial standpoint, just a platform standpoint, I guess. But I still don't. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't like it either. Let's we got a lot of Nintendo stuff to talk about. So
Yeah,
tell me the first thing that you like.
I like that. I am going to be wearing probably a $70 pair of overalls. I've never worn overalls in my life, JD, other than maybe my mom putting me in them when I was six, four,
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
three. I'm gonna be wearing those Mario denim. Like the Levi's collection looks so good, guy. Like, have you seen the coins on the little back pocket with the
I
little?
have.
It's so good.
I have the same thought that the last time I wore overalls was certainly the time my mom put me in them before I went on like a field trip to go like pumpkin picking. And so now, like, to fast forward, like 25 years later, and it's like, hey, these are actually kind of cool. So, yeah, Mario denim. I'm into it. Weird collaboration, but let's see what it looks like. Let's see how people like them.
Speaking of weird collaborations, Reggie Fils-Aimé, the former head of Nintendo, joining the GameStop board of directors is the weirdest crossover that I could even ever think of.
It's odd, right? Because GameStop not necessarily doing so hot, and they, have been struggling a lot over the last year, if not more. And then you kind of flip that coin, right? Reggie has an amazing track record of doing some really great stuff with Nintendo while he was in charge. And so if you think about someone who has that consumer mind, that has that knowledge of the industry pretty intimately, he is kind of a smart choice for GameStop. I don't understand where the smart choice is for Reggie.
Why?
Maybe he just wants a challenge. Like, maybe he is just so tired of wrecking everyone in Smash because he has this online fake profile. No one knows it's him. He's just absolutely wrecking kids left and right. He needs a new challenge. And so GameStop, it's time.
I wish Reggie the best. I have loved this man for a very long time. Seeing him in the Nintendo Directs these last few years, seeing him at E3, all of that. He's an important part of my life. Him chewing bubblegum is a thing I think about often. And now that he's out of that bubblegum, I'm sad that he has to walk into a GameStop that's filled with pop figures and he just has to go, where are the games? What is happening here? Why is there a backpack with Deadpool on it? He's gonna be
He's
so confused.
he's gonna be okay. I have all the faith in him.
No, the direct. So I talked briefly about Reggie appearing in directs, and there are rumors of directs, and I think we're going to get a lot of these rumors over the next few weeks because a lot of companies are going to kind of scrap to figure out what they're going to do with the absence of the E3. So they're going to find a way to drop these little digital, I guess, releases, digital updates, like Nintendo has always done. I think a lot of companies are going to see Nintendo's example and kind of move forward with what Nintendo has done with their little direct style events where they just kind of drop a little bit of news here and there. And there was a rumor that there are a few Nintendo Directs happening very soon. Some focused on the new games that may have been at E3, and then some focused on some Nindies as well, some Nintendo indie games.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think these sort of direct to consumer digital broadcasts are definitely a future that a lot of these game makers will want to live in because it lets them
Mm-hmm.
really tightly control the narrative and the content and the time of delivery and the method of delivery. All of that's smart. And for Nintendo specifically, I think, they have Animal Crossing, so I don't think we'll see any direct soon. Soon being over the course of this next week and possibly into a couple weeks after that, right? There's nothing that they'll want to do that will take the heat away from Animal Crossing. But
Mm-hmm.
maybe as you move into late April, early May, right? We might get one. And then I think they're definitely going to hold back anything big to capitalize on the E3 absence. because you figure that'll be the next big wave after Animal Crossing, right?
Yep, has to
Yeah,
be. Or they'll do a smaller game spotlight, which is a really nice thing that they do. You
that's
mentioned
true.
Animal Crossing there, and I know we're both so excited, and this is still
Oh, so
continuing our
excited.
countdown till Animal Crossing comes out. And I saw this thing that there was an Animal Crossing movie that came out in Japan, and it's getting re-aired because New Horizons is coming out. I want you to know
Oh,
I'm going to watch it and review it.
well,
And even if I
perfect.
have to learn Japanese in this next 3 days, I'm going to do that just so I can watch this movie.
Your commitment to Animal Crossing is so strong that I fully believe that you'll be able to learn the language in 3 days to watch this movie. I have
Mhm.
no lack of faith in you. Godspeed.
I will spend the bells to make it happen.
Switching gears, new Tony Hawk skating game may have accidentally gotten leaked. So I think I don't remember the band, but someone had posted on Twitter that they recorded 3 songs for a new Tony Hawk game and then quickly deleted the tweet. And so if that isn't a confirmation in and of itself, there's a lot of other evidence that's kind of floating around out there, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. There's been a few different things, whether it's a remaster or a remake. How we've kind of talked about Activision going back into their previous catalog and making games, but there's some other tidbits and things out there for Tony Hawk, and we've talked about this a few times now. It's time. Skate games are really cool. Like snowboarding games used to be cool, skate games used to be cool. And we just need this again.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited. If they do it, it'll be a nice fresh entry into a pretty crowded battle royale shooter space. It'll be a nice something different, right? I mean, and obviously, again, I've got Animal Crossing, so I'm not that worried. But
Hmm.
it'll be good. It'll be pretty awesome. Speaking of pretty awesome, I love Destiny. It's not a secret. I'm a huge Destiny fanatic.
Hmm.
Season of the Worthy just launched this week, which brought back Trials of Osiris, the endgame PvP content. And so, not to hark on this too much, but I'm stoked to dive into it. I am excited to get absolutely shredded in Trials. And I love Bungie, and I'm really excited to see kind of how this story that they're crafting over the course of seasons continues to evolve. They brought back Saint 14, which is amazing. So yeah, that's a little tirade on Destiny, real quick. Little spiel.
Hype for the Destiny dudes out there. Hype for something that is now delayed, and we're going to keep having things delayed. But the Mulan movie was coming out, and now
Oh,
it's delayed indefinitely. We don't know when the new release is.
I
Do you know
know.
who Jimmy Wong is? Are you aware of Jimmy Wong at all?
So let me back up. When you wanted me to add this to the show notes, all you texted me was Ted VGHS add to notes. And I had no idea what any of that meant. So I had to go searching and figure this out. So no, please inform me. Please help me understand what I typed.
Okay, so Jimmy Wong is Ted in Video Game High School, and
Right.
Video Game High School is one of my favorite YouTube series that eventually got onto Netflix, I believe, and maybe it's not on there anymore. But if you're a gamer, this show has a little bit for everything. They essentially turn each type of gamer into a different clique in a high school, and there are the drift kids who play like Need for Speed and the FPS kids, and it's a very delightful series. And I love Jimmy Wong, and I didn't even know he was in Mulan. And the only reason I found out is because I was looking at it got delayed news, and then I saw him on a poster, and I'm like, oh, what? He's one of the guys in the "Make a Man Out of You" song. He's the never gonna catch his breath guy. Yes. So that's it. And if you like video games, especially in these quarantine times, and you're looking for something to binge, Video Game High School is really good.
Okay. Good to know. I love it. I'll have to look at that. I wasn't familiar with it. So thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you for explaining all of that to me and to our listeners.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You want to talk a little bit about another kind of remaster remake that we're hearing some rumors about?
Crash Bandicoot is getting a lot of love. So the Crash trilogy is pretty cool. Spyro trilogy pretty cool. We've talked about Activision dipping into their catalog quite a lot. Wrath of Cortex, I wouldn't say had the same amount of love as the original the first two Crash games have. And I don't know, man. I don't know if Wrath of Cortex is the one. Also, there were
Hmm.
rumors of a new
Yeah.
PvP game, and I don't understand what Crash Bandicoot PvP would even look like.
Battle
So
Royale.
yeah, Crash Battle Royale. Everyone's flipping around like Tasmanian tigers, like just spinning as tornadoes into people. I don't think that that's the right way to mine your IP, Activision. Also, I don't think Activision knows how to mine their IPs correctly as they sit there making billions of dollars on Call of Duty. But still, I think they could be doing more. But obviously, I'm a platformer fan, so I just am never going to be happy with them.
Yeah, that's fair. That totally makes sense. If they did make a Crash Bandicoot Battle Royale, is there like kill streak bonuses where like you how would it work? Like I don't even like the thought of like you're going around killing these creatures from the Crash series, and like it just sounds really
They're
morbid.
cute. Yeah, like polar bears and like tigers. It's the worst. So
And then
you're
you're just
right.
like, you come around the corner and just like, "Booty-ga-ga," and then it's like, ah! Like you're just screaming like.
Incredible. Okay, so you said that doesn't make sense. Another thing that doesn't make sense is like why Norman Reedus and Hideo Kojima just don't date already, because those two are just like so
They're
into each
so
other.
in
It's
love.
they just make out already. You long haired weirdos.
Recent report, kind of some rumors that they are wanting to do stuff with each other. Without getting too into it, the report didn't really dive into what stuff is. It also didn't explicitly say what stuff isn't. And so,
Yeah,
dear listener, we'll let you have your imagination explore Norman Reedus and Kojima and whatever
together.
stuff is taking place.
Well, see, they have a lot of passion for their
Oh,
projects.
they do.
JD, they like delivering packages. Their last excursion, it was all about delivering packages. Those two.
Big packages, small packages,
We're of course
weathering
thinking of Death Stranding,
weathering the storm.
weathering the storm together, and that brings us to the end of our fastballs today.
Right into our scouting report.
Yeah,
And
buddy.
the first thing, apropos to weathering the storm and Death Stranding and all sorts of other terrible metaphors, E3.
Dystopian futures.
Oh, gosh, Cyberpunk, please save us now. E3 officially canceled, which I think anyone could have predicted that they needed to do this, and it's the right thing to do it.
Mhm.
And a lot of companies right away came out to give their support. Xbox, Ubisoft, EA, Nintendo, all kind of among many others, published some little tweets and some articles basically saying, "Hey, we applaud the ESA. This was the right move." And I fully agree. And Eli, I know you fully agree. And so now they're kind of trying to think of how do we make this into a more digital event, something digitally focused, which is, what we just hit on before. So all that's well and good. And so now the real thing is the future of the conference is kind of uncertain, I feel like. Not just like when will E3 2020 like get rescheduled to, right? But more of a how relevant is E3 going to be if this year all these companies can do it digitally, which is, let's be honest, the way most people have consumed E3 for years anyway. What do you think about that? Like, give me your take on what you think E3 is going to, how does it adapt and how does it stay relevant in the face of this?
Yeah, this is case zero in their soon to be spreading plague of death for E3. I feel bad for them, but I do think that a lot of companies are going to realize that they don't need E3 and that they can do events on their own that are going to get spotlight, and they're not going to have a game like, a Way Back or Unravel buried by the news of Halo and all these other things. I mean,
Sure.
the year that Bloodborne got announced, it was buried behind news of all these other games. Or the year the Order 18, this is why Sony pulled out, because Sony knows that they're big enough. They don't need E3. They don't need to spend the money on the show floor space. They don't need to spend the money for the amphitheater. They can just do their own thing digitally or do their own thing in another place around the same time, and they'll still get the same effect.
It's interesting, right? So Sony pulls out and Microsoft stays behind with Xbox, and they're still there, and Nintendo's been out for a bit. And so kind of the one thing that I think is really scary, if you look at the numbers for it, is last year, 2019, E3 2019 made up 48% of the total revenue that the ESA, the governing board that throws E3, that they made the entire year, right? So almost half their revenue came from an event that takes place in the course of a week, which is terrifying.
It's bad for business.
Terrible for business, right? And I think, this goes on the wings of what we had talked about before with E3 2019 accidentally doxing a bunch of people, so that wasn't necessarily good for their image. And now you're going to have these companies, to your point, they're kind of realizing, like, is it as necessary for us to go share this spotlight? To a degree, sure. Like, if everyone has their foot in the spotlight, great, we're all sharing it. But also, there's going to be, a lot of opportunities for Microsoft to be like, yeah, we could just, do our own thing. And we're big enough that we could have our own spotlight all to ourselves, just like Sony. And then that's going to trickle down to they will be able to flex with partners and bring them in, right? So we saw Sony do that with
Mhm.
like Square Enix, and what's stopping Microsoft to pull, Activision or EA into that
Ubisoft,
spotlight with
yeah.
them.
Mhm.
And so that then makes the kind of hardest hit of all this being how bad indie developers are going to be hit. And I don't mean like indie devs that are partnered under the umbrella of like ID at Xbox, right? Or PlayStation's indie efforts, but they're true indies who don't have spotlight at all or any sort of representation. And I think that's kind of the suckiest part about all this is where does it leave them?
100%. So I agree with you tenfold. I don't know if everyone knows this, but E3, much like GDC, a lot of the things that are happening and why it was a press event or a media event initially is it's just like Upfronts week when it comes to the movie industry or the TV industry when they're doing pilot season. It's essentially that behind closed doors, because the important decision makers of EA and Activision are there, people are pitching their games. And not just that, the games that are going to be released soon or in that calendar year, like I know you know this and I know this, we count on those montages. And when they have
Right.
those gameplay montages at the Xbox conference or at PlayStation's, and I see a few little games, I'm just like, I'm writing down the names of those games
Yeah.
because those are the games I'm going to be playing because I love to support indie devs and I prefer to spend 15 to $30 on a game rather than $60. So
Sure.
it's a big hit. It's heartbreaking for the indie developers. We're not going to necessarily see the effects this year, but I think that we are going to have maybe a little bit of a dystopia or an oasis of our own in the next coming years because there's going to be less projects in the pipeline.
No, I agree. I think that's the trickiest part is, these guys are losing their platform to pitch, and that lack of a representation, that lack of an ability to maybe find someone who's going to finance their game, right? Or just like what happens now when those devs who maybe were going to get in the reel for ID at Xbox on Xbox's E3 stage, now they don't have that meeting, that opportunity to do that. And so now what, right? And so indies, it's the saddest part for me, and it's the reason I hope events like E3 can find some sort of creative way to continue. And to that point, I also am really happy to see a lot of the organizations that have been rallying around GDC, like Wings Foundation. They're trying to help indie devs or people who were going to GDC who need financial support now because they lost like their plane tickets are non-refundable, or the hotel room that they booked, the hotel isn't letting them refund. Those organizations are trying to help get money back into the pockets of those people. And so they're also trying to help get those games in front of publishers, which is amazing. And I've seen all sorts of other great efforts on Twitter. Rami Ismail, one of my favorite indie devs, half of Lambeer, he's been retweeting indie projects like crazy over the last week and a half.
That's awesome.
Another smart game analyst slash journalist, Mike Futter, he did the same thing. He put out a Twitter thread that was like, hey, if you were going to go pitch at E3, like, please tweet me your project and I am going to just blast it. And so his Twitter timeline for like the last week has been nothing but retweets of games and like putting his own commentary or like tagging people that he thinks might be interested that he knows in the industry.
That's awesome.
It's so awesome. So yeah, that's,
And,
to,
and
to that
that's
point.
that's one of
Yeah.
the secrets, man, in this industry. Just like when there is something, people support each other.
Oh yeah.
They are there for each other, and yes, the big companies, they do control a lot, but the people also have control because you can control what you put out there and who you choose to support. So I think that that's an important thing. If there's a game dev in your life, if you know someone who could use that support, just do that retweet. It costs you nothing to click that button.
Also, for anyone listening to this show, if there's something, please tweet us at it and we will retweet you, and we'll retweet it onto our personal accounts. Like, we'll happily put that out into the universe for you as well. So we're more than welcome to support indie devs. Both of us, I think, being this indie dev kind of on our own because we both like to make games when we're not talking or playing them. And yeah, so please, send us your projects too. We'll happily try to give you a platform.
100%. So some other projects that we could have found out about at E3, but unfortunately, since the show is canceled, we don't know exactly what way these titles will roll out. Is that Warner Brothers was reportedly going to be showcasing a new Batman game, showing off what their DC Games universe would look like in totality, and then, of course, showing off that already leaked Harry Potter game. So,
Yeah.
JD, just to start, of all those projects, what are you, I guess, most bummed that you're not going to guaranteed see?
Harry Potter. I mean,
Okay.
I am not a huge DC guy.
Hmm. Hmm.
I never really was growing up. Like the comics are good and they're well written and they're well illustrated, and I can appreciate all of that. But the Marvel universe has always resonated quite a bit more with me. And so, yes, it's sad to, I know there's a big DC following, and certainly the potential for a really good Batman game, it would be huge. But also, like, I grew up loving and just consuming those Harry Potter books and movies, and I definitely would have loved to get some concrete details on a Harry Potter game.
So I'm sure we'll still get these. We'll still get them probably this year as well. A lot of, games can be worked on remotely, hopefully, or that's something that some of these companies are transitioning into doing, as we've talked about before, of of the DC games in general. So Batman, we know that's a sure thing because
Sure.
Rocksteady has that track record of making great Batman games. And so I'm sure there could be a spin-off studio making it, but we know we're going to get Batman and we know what to expect from that. Maybe it'll be an evolution like God of War was, the newest one was for the franchise, but I doubt
Right.
it. We'll probably get something in the similar vein. But of
Sure.
all the DC Universe games, what would you be most excited to see? Is it a Superman game? Is it Cyborg, an Aquaman? What kind of game do you think they should do?
I think about probably the most successful Marvel adaptation game right now has been Spider-Man, right? That Insomniac made, which was amazing. It was so open world and it was so filled with content and details and unlockables, and I love that. So I would love to see something in that similar vein, and I think the most potential there possibly could be like with a Superman character. And I think there's also some cool duality that could be at play where you can choose when you're Clark Kent and when you're Superman. And like the open world is evolving always, right? But it's like certain things you can only achieve when you're in the persona of Clark Kent, and certain things could only be achieved when you're in the persona of Superman, right?
I like that.
And so like there could be some cool like mechanics there where like you don't get to do everything, right? And if you try, it could have some pretty big consequences to the story, but it's still very open, right? Because there are those different quests that are constantly unfolding that lets the player sort of switch back and forth on the fly and take advantage of a very open world,
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's, if I had to quickly outline something I think would be cool, I think that could be really fun.
That would be my guess too, that they're going to make Superman. He's so popular, and why not?
Yeah.
I think we, not that we're specifically DC fans, but I think DC fans in general are owed it to have something good for
Yeah.
Superman, because there was that time where Spider-Man was kind of in a downturn, and then now it's a really good renaissance of Spider-Man content. So it's really great to see, or it'd be great to see something like that happen with Superman himself. And we talked about renaissances before, and Final Fantasy is in a full renaissance. It
Yes, it
seems
is.
like I know I complained a lot. And let me just get one thing out of the way real quick. I cannot believe that a demo had a secret ending. I That's so stupid to me. It's just baffling that you have to do certain things to get a secret ending in a demo. But it is brilliant to release like the first hour of the game as something to get people to buy your game. Square Enix has had a lot of tactics where they've included demos of games with like the bouncer and things that I never wanted to buy
Right.
but ended up getting because I needed to try the Final Fantasy. I guess I need to pull back the heat that I gave it last time because I'm pretty upset still. But please, JD, tell me some of the things they're trying to expand and flesh out.
Yeah, so I think, some of the details they revealed around the Final Fantasy VII remake. First is that they've expanded the main story. And so in doing that, and kind of the way they're getting to that is that certain characters are getting more, not to say screen time, but more mechanical investment into the story. So
Hmm.
their involvement in the core game is just naturally causing the main story to be expanded. So it's going to be a little bit longer, a little more complex and not quite shot for shot remakey of the original Final Fantasy VII. And another way they're kind of getting around to that is that they're going to add vehicles to the game,
Which
which
is what you
is
want from your turn-based RPGs. Yeah. You know what? I would like a good helicopter in,
I'm
or
looking
a
for a good
motorcycle.
ship. Yeah, exactly. UAV online.
You know,
Thanks,
they
Aerith.
no, they were just like they saw Hideo Kojima and Norman Reedus's like relationship blossoming, and then so they watched Norman Reedus's ride with Norman Reedus, and they're like, "Man, we
Damn it.
could really use some rides in this game."
They're like, yeah, wasn't there some concept art of a motorcycle? Add it to the game. We need to make this worth the gamers' money. I like how you started this segment by saying you were going to remove some of the heat that you gave Final Fantasy last week, and then instead you've absolutely just piled it all back on.
Oh, I went down from an 8 to at least a 5, man. I turned my burner down a bit, but I'm
Okay.
still mad.
Yeah, not look, I'm sure this will be great. I am very curious to see what the vehicle additions do to the gameplay. I can't really picture it, so I'm not going to let my imagination run wild. I'm just going to see what it looks like.
It seems like this game's just going to be the Midgar section. Did you see Cloud with the pigtails and the dress and the
Yes.
braided hair? Okay.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Pretty hot.
All right, moving on.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk a little bit about PlayStation 5. So Sony teased this week kind of what their thought and strategy is going to look like in terms of games. And so they have said that they are kind of sticking to what worked really well for PS4, where they're going to invest in single player narrative driven games. So, I mean, you can point over to the last, 5 years of PS4 and there's so many to pick from that were Sony first party exclusive single player narrative driven games that were just absolute blockbusters. And so it's not shocking that that's kind of what they want to stick to. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah, I would agree. I mean, Uncharted 5 with Natalie Drake. Let's do it. Let's get the daughter Drake in there. Let's go.
Maybe that is what they're doing. Thanks for leaking that.
My bad.
On the flip side, they did say that they are open to experimentation and new ideas for games. And so that is so generic and open-ended that it absolutely doesn't tell anybody anything.
It's also my Tinder bio, so thank you.
It just reads as throwaway answer to a question when someone is like, oh, what are you guys thinking for PS5? They're like, we are definitely going to look at creating games that you play with a controller, and we are 99% sure our console will plug into a screen. That's how open to experimentation and new ideas reads to me. But what they did say pretty concretely, which is not shocking, is their heavy investment into their first party studios, given the money they've put into buying these studios, particularly, you think Insomniac, after how incredibly successful Spider-Man, what we just talked about, picking up Insomniac was excellent. So it's not shocking that that's where they're going to pour money into for PS5.
Yeah, of course.
So.
Spider-Man 2, Horizon Zero Dose, we got to get them. Just do it.
I would be happy with those, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So that's not even like we kind of poke fun, but also if they were like, this game is coming out, I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. I'm going to buy that.
Yeah, just give me more of what I want.
Speaking of not giving us more of what we want, let's transition to our final piece of news around the scouting report this week. So Stadia, all of our friends at Stadia, thanks for tuning in. They put out one of those fun little Twitter games, right? Where it's like, you spell something with the initials of your name and you retweet it and your friends retweet it, blah, 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 right? And so they said, hey, list a video game with each letter starts with the letter in your name, right? So they had STADIA and then listed them out.
And they did games. Yeah, they did games specifically
on Stadia.
Yeah, on Stadia. Yeah, they only filled it out with games that are on Stadia.
So they get to I, and all they had was a bunch of question marks and the shrugging emoji, which inadvertently, I don't think it was their intention, but it basically called out how few games are actually on Stadia.
It sure did. I love that the internet just chose to roast them in every single way possible because of it.
Oh, my favorite one, someone retweeted it and they're like, hey, look, they fit their entire games library into one tweet. Come on, who thought that was a good idea to not be able to fill all of them in with the game? Who was like, oh, this will still probably go over pretty well?
Not me as a social media manager, but I do think we have something for them.
Well, look, so Stadia, we're huge fans. We never say anything bad about the platform. To that note, you guys don't have any games that start with an I, but we're idea men and we didn't want to leave you hanging, and so that takes us right into the game pitch. And Eli, I think you have a game for them this week.
I do, a game that starts with the letter I. It's called In the Box. And Jade, I'm speaking to you. Shannon, I'm speaking right to you as well, but I need to peel back and tell you a quick little story of me playing the game Control. And in the game Control, you have psychic almost Mass Effect-y type powers or gravity gun powers. You can grab stuff and pull it, but you don't get those until a few minutes into the game, maybe 45 minutes to an hour into the game.
Okay.
But if you happen to run across a treasure chest in that game, you go to the treasure chest, but the game only has one treasure chest opening animation, which does not involve the lead character touching the treasure chest in any way, but opening it with psychic powers, to which I was very confused. Where did I get these psychic powers from? So this is a problem just in games in general. I think treasure chests, opening the treasure chest, and maybe the animations can get tired, or that the fact, like even in Jedi Fallen Order, the fact that the little BD1 goes into the
Yeah.
thing and jumps all around. It's like, hey man, you're scuffing up the new like hilt that I just got from my saber. You're messing it up by jumping around the box. So
Right.
I wanted to expose a larger problem in gaming, and I think that it's just generic chest animations. I think that any AAA game should have anywhere between 1 to 3 of these animations that it rotates through on a random counter. But what I thought would be the most brilliant thing, JD, is
Okay.
if in an RPG, as you leveled up, the way that you open the chest changed. So like levels 1 to 20, you're just opening it up with an arm. Levels like 20 to 40, you're like punching that chest open. Level 40 to 60, you're kicking that thing. And then like level 80 to 100, you're just picking it up and ripping it apart like it's like a jacked dude ripping a melon in half. You know what I'm saying?
I love it. Yeah, this is great. So you outlined one mechanic of the
Yes.
game.
This is not the game. This is not the game. This is not the game. So actually, all of that, the chest problem in video games, that's right. Hashtag chest problems. Hashtag game pitch, hashtag chest problems. But the chest problem in video games is so rampant and so just prevalent to me that I decided that, wait a minute, how do all these treasure chests get filled? So the game I am pitching you, JD, is called In the Box, like the famous movie line, "What's in the box?" But you play as a dragon hoarding grandmother. So you're an old
Ooh.
dragon, you're an old lady dragon, and you have just a copious amount of gems, jewels, rubies, all these things that you have on your hoard, and you lay atop them. But you've decided in your old age that it's time to get back in the game, and you need to get into shape. And one of your little pals there
Okay.
tells you that, you know what you should do? You should disperse this wealth to the people in a very Bernie way, in a like just in just a page out of Bernie's book. But essentially, you play as a grandmother sneaking around all the levels that a character from a video game is gonna come into, filling the chests with your treasure and putting the
Ah.
items that the people are eventually going to get in the game into the chest. So essentially, each world is a different type of video game that you might get chests in. So like a classic top-down RPG, a stealth game, or a game like Control. But essentially, you're the character that's just trying to get around all the problems that the players of the games might have to experience, but as an elderly dragon grandma, filling the boxes with the treasure that they will one day claim.
I love it. I I forgot about the dragon part briefly. So when you were saying you're this elderly grandma running around filling up treasure chests, I was like picturing an old lady, and then you you said dragon again. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot I'm a dragon.
So that's In the Box. That is
In,
my
in the box, coming 2021 exclusively to Stadia.
to Stadia. Jade, Shannon, please greenlight us.
Look, give us the funding. We're gonna get started right away. We have, I think, Eli probably has some concept art. If not, we can make some, in 10 minutes after the show ends, no problem.
I've been practicing my dragon noises all week.
Oh, let's hear it.
That was the grandma dragon.
That's grandma dragon, so it's okay that it sounds a little decrepit. I love it. In the box again, Stadia 2021. Thank you guys. We know you're gonna want to buy this game. All right, moving on. I think we have one red card to give out this week, right?
Yes, sir. I have beaten Control recently, and now I am playing. And then I transitioned to Hat in Time. And JD, I'm sure you know this, but the Xbox controller and the Switch Joy-Cons have their buttons inverted.
Yes.
And I cannot tell you how many times I've accidentally pressed V or X or Y when I was not trying to press those buttons.
Yes. So this is a red card around the standardization of ABXY and their positions, and why in the world do they make it not the same? What is the point? Why?
Does Nintendo have the patent on that exact button like order or
Probably.
positioning? Because it's infuriating. It's so bad. I keep pressing X at the wrong time in Ori, and what's even worse is I did Control, then Hat in Time, and now I'm playing Ori, so it was Xbox, Switch, Xbox, and my brain is broken, and I don't know
Yeah.
what to do with myself.
Terrible, terrible order to bounce around in these at. Yeah, it's so funny. I wouldn't have given this any thought until you put this in the notes. And I was playing, like I said, Pokemon, and I was on my Switch and I kept hitting the wrong freaking button to like try to get my Ycom. I thought it was in the top, and then I'm like, wait, no, it's not there. It's over here. Yeah, no, I hadn't thought about this too much. And then I read this in the notes, and now I am so self conscious about the wrong positioning of the buttons. So thank you for ruining the controllers for me and making me so conscious about what I'm pressing and how they're not in the same spot. Thank you. Thank you so much for that.
Let's change the name of the pod to Anxiety Pitch, and we'll
Yeah.
just
Yeah, it's everyone, if we accidentally made you very conscious of the button layout, please tweet us, let us know. We're really sorry. You may be entitled to financial compensation because of this anxiety that we're causing you.
just know I'm suffering too.
We are all in this together. Well, I think that's the end of the show, right?
That is the end of the show. Thank you guys for listening. This is a banner week.
This was a great week. Guys, thanks for tuning in. There's so many ways that you can connect with us. On Twitter at GamePitchPod. I'm at J to the D. Eli is at Mario RPGino. We're both on Instagram at J to the D at that guy _Eli. You can email us at gamepitchpodcast@gmail.com. And yeah, stay tuned and subscribe. Like the podcast if you've been enjoying it. If you haven't been enjoying it, still like it. Leave us some feedback. We want to get better. We want to do better by you, dear listeners.
Oh yes, we love you so very much. And the episodes are launching now. So we will be catching up. You're going to maybe hear some old content, but hopefully you still enjoy the pitches and me and JD going back and forth trying to make each other laugh about this wonderful thing we call the gaming world. I just love it so much.
Me too. Yeah, sorry if there's any confusion. What you're listening to over the last couple weeks is basically our pitch of the show, which was to try to get it produced and greenlit. And so we have a couple episodes of us getting our feet wet. And so kind of by mid-April, you will get brand new episodes, very timely content. We'll be all caught up. We record and then the episode comes out the next day. So it'll be hot and fresh and you'll love it.
I agree.
Thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you next week. Bye, Eli.
What's in the box?
What's in the box?